Okay, good morning. Aloha kakayaka kako. This is the Hawaii County Council's 25th session here in Hilo. Today's date is November 3rd, 2015. The current time is 9:03 a.m. Please, if you could, turn off your cell phones or at least put it on the silent mode. Ms. Willie?
Yeah, before we begin, I just want to say that I don't have a problem with our combining these two meetings today, but I did have one item of mine scratched and removed.
In the council?
And this is from the committee, but it has to do with, that we're having both meetings today. That if we're going to have both meetings, that doesn't mean that an agenda item that we have can just be eliminated and let's put it off till next time.
That wasn't the reason why that happened, Ms. Willie. I don't know.
So it's in the finance committee.
Maybe when we go into committees, we can bring that up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We don't have any certificates today, so I'm going to go into statements from the public on agenda items. Aloha North Kohala, you can introduce your testifier.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce Albert Ahegma. He will just be speaking on 3 resolutions and 2 bills, and he will advise council when he transitions. Please restate your name for the record.
Once again, my name is Albert Ahegma. I'm over 30-year resident of Hawaii. For the last 4 years, I've been covering news. To Resolution 2828315, the enterprise zones, I have concerns for this type of bill. Will these enterprise zones entertain people who are not state citizens? Will tax money go to multinationals, corporations from other countries, corporations that destroy the INA, or corporations that are pharmaceuticals, or into chemical agriculture or products related to these companies? I think that there should be a scrupulous analysis of, once again, at all levels, for families who are related or have full or even partial ownership in such companies that use these enterprise zones. And I think there should be very little insider information going on in the government as to family members of taking advantage of such enterprise zones. I am very concerned about these matters because, and I will state this in relation to all of these subjects, I've been in Hawaii a long time. I met an FBI off-duty, and he said Hawaii is the most corrupt state in the nation, and it's not really an illegal state. And I am very concerned. I haven't been attending such meetings as these because of the corruption, out of hand. And I'm so glad to see a special bill. But this resolution, the enterprise zone, could be a Pandora's box to allow multinationals, enterprises which destroy the INA and the health of our citizens and the native population. I think it needs to be overseen in some way, not just allowed. Now the Code of Ethics, 37.5. One reason I haven't attended many meetings is, as I stated, that what I call organized and disorganized crime and corruption, not only in Hawaii, but in the other states in the nation and in the government, is rampant. At the fall of the Roman Empire, somebody named Cicero was an honest senator. He tried to work with the corruption of a falling Roman Empire and situation. There was a death of the leader, and then Mark Antony took over. Why am I mentioning this? Because this history is repeating itself in the fall of the American Empire. And Hawaii is in a unique situation related to this. There will be leaders, and there will be those who bend to corruption. I want to commend somebody. Tulsi Gabbard was on national TV and disclosed the truth about certain things on national television.
the U.S. and the CIA should stop this illegal and counterproductive war to overthrow the Syrian government of Assad, and should stay focused on fighting against who our enemy is, the Islamic extremist groups. Because right now we're seeing why this is counterproductive. By working towards that end, by working towards overthrowing the Syrian government of Assad, we are not only strengthening our enemy, the Islamic extremists, who will walk in and take over all of the country of Syria. Right now they have about half of the country under their control, but it also puts us in that position of a potential direct head-to-head conflict with Russia, which brings us to the brink of a potential larger conflict of a World War III type situation.
Why do you say the U.S. effort to get rid of Bashar al-Assad's regime is counterproductive and illegal?
Well, first of all, there's not been a vote in Congress to authorize the use of force, to authorize a war to overthrow a sovereign government. For as long as I've been there, that hasn't happened. It didn't happen before I got there. So the American people haven't had a choice to speak their voice, to approve or disapprove such a war. Therefore, it's illegal. Secondly, it is counterproductive because right now, U.S. arms are getting into the hands of our enemy, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, these other groups, Islamic extremist groups who are our sworn enemy. These are groups who attacked us on 9/11 and who supposedly we're trying to defeat, yet at the same time supporting them with these arms to overthrow this Syrian
So you
government.
don't even want the U.S. to provide weapons or arms to these anti-Bashar al-Assad rebels?
I don't want the U.S. government to provide weapons to Al-Qaeda, to Islamic extremists, to our enemy. I think it's a very simple concept in my mind that you can't defeat your enemy if you're arming them and helping them at the same time. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Have you told this to officials at the White House?
We've had conversations, both in hearings and otherwise, and I think it's important for the American people to stand up and say, look, we don't want to go and do what happened in Iraq with Saddam Hussein, do what happened in Libya with Gaddafi, because these are countries that have fallen into chaos and that have been taken over by these terrorists because of the actions that the United States and others took.
She is a leader. I celebrate several leaders in our own county council, especially Margaret Willing and several other members of the county council. The people who are remembered in history are the really evil ones, or the few who stand up against evil and corruption. And I think it's very important. There's been a lot of money passed in Aloha and Grease the Palm and other ways. Campaign spending is still not quite right. And so long as offices can be bought and people can be bought and their souls compromised, we'll never have a clear democracy again. And I celebrate this bill, this code of ethics, and I know it's a struggle because those people, all politicians have good intentions. However, it's very tempting to take extra money. I'm very disconcerted about our own mayor. And having been in the news, I knew just before his election that a journalist was trying to interview him and he was meeting with, well, not the best people. And he ran out the back door. I think the fact that we'll just let it pass and politicians are not above the law. If there's corruption and chicanery and misuse of funds or nepotism, we need another bill of ethics that's stronger. And thank you for passing this bill of ethics, and I am totally behind it. And I'm done.
Thank you for your testimony.
Mahalo for your testimony. Joy Cash. Good morning.
Good morning. One of my biggest concerns is enterprises that would destroy our INA and not really contribute in the long run to the benefit of our island and our Keiki's future. Transitioning now to Bill 37. Again, Miss Willie has come up with an approach to ethics that I think is sound and wise. I have to state my concern about Homeland Security. I don't feel any more secure since Homeland Security has been established. And I know on the Homeland Security identifies any American citizen that opposes government policy as a domestic terrorist. This is not, foolishness. This is stated, documented stuff. So when we talk about Homeland Security, look to the reality of it. It's easy to go, oh yeah, we want to feel more secure.
While I have you, Congresswoman, Reuters is now reporting that the U.S. Navy plans to conduct patrols in the South China Sea about twice a quarter, twice every 3 months or so. This following those comments made by China's naval commander that U.S. provocative acts, in their words, could potentially spark war. Do you support the continued U.S. naval presence in the South China Sea, areas, water that China claims are their territorial waters?
Well, the U.S. has been and continues to conduct these freedom of passage patrols in international waters all around the world, making sure that these passages are open for commerce for everyone. The dangerous thing that I see about not only what China is trying to do and create these artificial islands is that it creates the potential for other countries to do the same. If you've got Vietnam creating these artificial islands essentially out of nothing, building them on top of reef, you can see how that could be a problem not only in the South China Sea, but around the world. It would create a whole new dynamic. So I think the critical thing here for us as the United States and the countries within the region, the ASEAN nations, is to find a consensus, to find a peaceful resolution to this that will ensure stability within the region, which I think ultimately is what all of these countries would like to achieve.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Leonard Horowitz, and I've been attempting to be a good citizen here for about 11 years. And I'm the author of 18 books, 5 documentary films. My latest book is called Space Pearl Harbor. I'm here in support, and I thank you so much for bringing the ethics bill forward, because essentially ethics is the basis for our civility. Ethics, morals, values, the way we treat each other, the way we engage in our justice systems. And the reason why I'm really here is because I'm a victim of organized crime. For the last 10 years, I have been engaged in what the excellent, articulate Kohala resident articulated with regard to the FBI, stating that this state, and particularly this island, is probably the most corrupt state in the United States. I have been embattled to bring forward on this island a wonderful, as someone who is heavily involved in natural medicine, somebody who is very well connected internationally to World Organization for Natural Medicine Practitioners, to bring a rural health clinic, to bring wonderful things that people of Hawaii can be proud of. And yet, the land has been stolen from us. Title has been stolen from us. Third Circuit Court officers of the courts have been outrageously corrupt, stealing, forging documents, fraudulently transferring titles, creating mortgages, notes, all before the willfully blind judges in the Third Circuit Court. I look at this issue as being central to the ethics bill because it talks about fair treatment of the citizens of Hawaii. I'll give you a great example. I was in court just the other day, and I had witnessed a young woman who was being prosecuted for becoming pregnant, getting angry with the man who inseminated her and left her. She was being prosecuted by our prosecutors for yelling at him in a parking lot.
30 seconds.
I have here a letter from the prosecutor's office that I received yesterday, having submitted cases, at least a dozen complaints over the past 15 years. The letter that I just received from the prosecutor's office says, sorry, the case that you submitted in 2004 is now defunct because of statute of limitations. The evidence that we have submitted is outrageously clear and convincing that there is fraud and crime and corruption on this island. where the federal government of the United States says that there's at least now, this year, $3.5 billion of marijuana leaving this island.
Thank you, sir.
I encourage you all, and I thank you all for at least taking a baby step forward in passing 37 ethics bill. And particularly, thank you, Margaret Willey.
Okay, moving on to the next two testifiers.
I believe this is a de facto state. I'm not sure. That hasn't been resolved yet, but I'm sure it will be. However, I want to address this issue of RICO, racketeering. It was just said and heard here that we live in a very corrupt environment on this island. I'm here today not only addressing for myself, but also for the Hawaii common law grand jury of this county. We the people are sick and tired of this corrupt business that goes on behind the walls, beyond these walls of the county and the judiciary across the street. Some of us are intelligent enough to do our due diligence and to begin to investigate. So from this point on, we are going to set up office in that office over there that is provided for the public. And we'll let you know what day we're going to set up, okay? But it will be one day a week, and we will have someone there who will open their hearts to the public who have issues that they want to get addressed, since they cannot get satisfaction perhaps from the county or the judicial system. Thank you very much. Aloha.
All of your testimony. Next, we have Joe Pierce.
Good morning. My name is Joe Pierce.
Good morning.
And let me touch on the ethics very quickly. I do support this bill, even though I don't particularly agree with the details, simply because I believe it's a step in the right direction. And I think it's important when people, maybe not agree with a certain component of legislation, compromise, right, trying to push it through. I'd like to just state publicly that I thank Margaret Willey for her efforts in bringing justice a lot of what you have heard today, more so than average in my short experience here. That I just want to acknowledge that while I support it, I don't particularly support the county government and what it represents, nor do I consider myself subject to its authority and jurisdiction, much like for the reasons that you've heard today. Reasons, might I add, that have nothing to do with this being Hawaii or us being in Hawaii on these islands. It's just a federal template that I think that we're having an issue with as members of the public being applied to this island and being supported by the few hundred people who are actually the ruling class in power over the 200,000 or so inhabitants here. Bill 103 and 112 have to do with accepting federal grants and police spending. 103 is $360,000 for Homeland Security. I did all the digging I could find, and it simply says specialized equipment for terrorism and for Homeland Security. Now, I'd like to know what this is. I was in the military. I'm well aware of the kind of equipment and new cutting-edge capabilities to some extent that they have. And let me just give an example to the public to hear. In New York, there was a recent story that said the police department there was using these vans with no windows that was emitting X-rays and other forms of radiation so that they could see into other vehicles in the name of terrorism and checking bombs. But they have no scientists on their squad. They have no concern whatsoever for the effects of being assaulted with X-rays, and you're not even aware of this going on. I'm using that as an extreme, just to illustrate that the public wants to know what these funds are getting. I definitely want to know. This country and that federal template that, again, is being applied here has nothing to do with the respect for privacy. And with the advances of technology and electronically, respecting our privacy is not something that the federal government, template state government, template government, county government is interested in protecting. And so this is why I'm here, and many members of the public are here. We don't have any redress for our grievances, so we're having to speak up and do what we can outside of the system. Let me speak specifically to the police locally. I have concerns because I've personally and through many members of the public experienced the police here openly committing violations of rights, and we have no redress of grievances. I've brought this up before. I won't spend any time on it here, but basically, I mean, I have a letter from the police commission here for reports I filed way back in like April or May, and it delayed. Now looks like I'll be in November 16th. And one of the complaints had to do with 13 different officers' failure to complete reports beyond a few sentences that drastically impacted some justice, as you would call it. And the number one complaint against police officers, if you go to the Hawaii Police Department website, you'll see, if you compile all the numbers, that number one far away is incomplete filing of reports. Now, that's what they call it. Who knows what it means? But that's number one by far. And second place has half as many. So it's a big issue, and they denied it because it was outside of the 90 days before I knew what I could do about it. Further, the reason why I don't feel that the members of the public should be trusting in the police or the government and not subjecting themselves, to the authority of it is also because of the Internal Affairs Division. I don't want to bring up the past more than absolutely necessary, but in 2012, there was a family here who were raided by the police during a cannabis raid, and during that, an officer inappropriately touched a 14-year-old on the. For mentions of privacy, I won't go any further. That officer is now in charge of internal affairs. He won Officer of the Year, and he's now the police who are entrusted with policing our police. And in less than 24 hours, I got shut down. So why do we, this is why I'm here and why people are here saying, whoa, you're funding the police. You're funding my oppression, and I don't have a redress of grievances. Therefore, I see this monopoly as a threat to my freedoms, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to organize this community into providing options to break this monopoly. Speaking to the gentleman, I'm going to a meeting tomorrow with a gentleman who drives with no plates, has no license, and he's not being touched, and he's got permission. And this is, again, a federal issue, and this can be spread far and wide, and we will, because all the permits and fees and licenses and everything that you're collecting are because of a statutory system, which is not in line with the common law system mentioned here just a few moments ago. And the county does that, and the state and the federal, so they can collect all this money, and taxes is enforced at the point of a gun, ultimately. Every bit of legislation and privilege of exercise of authority this council has ever enacted has been ultimately, supposedly by theory, of the power of the people and enforced at the point of a gun or a cage. So if you don't believe in forcing people with a gun and you like, a voluntary society and trying to come up with something like that, then you are for another option to the monopoly on governance and police and security here. The judges, let's see. This is issue of jurisdiction. Again, nothing to do with the state, could be brought up anywhere. And I'm simply asking a question. What evidence does the prosecutor's office that this council funds, what evidence do they present to the judge in all of these nonviolent victimless cases that speaks to jurisdiction, the element of jurisdiction, which by their own definitions, if you listen to one of their speeches before traffic court, they will admit they have to describe and submit jurisdiction in accordance with international law. This does not happen, period, point blank. It doesn't have to do with Hawaii. It has to do with a hustle that is a template going on. They can't show jurisdiction. And when I ask them, no. They get mad, they throw you out, they kick you out at the point of a gun, and then you complain about it to the judicial office, and they send you a letter that says, we don't do anything about that. I know that they're sending arrest warrants because they won't answer a question that they're lawfully and legally compelled to answer.
Thank you, sir.
And they won't. You're welcome. Thank you for listening to me. That's all I have. Have a good day.
Mahalo for your testimony. I think we have one more here in Hilo, Sherry Kane.
Hi, my name is Sherry Kane, and I'm here to testify in support of Bill 37, Margaret Willie's bill. I want to also thank her for bringing this bill forward. I think that she is a hero and that should serve as a model for not only Hawaii, this island, but other states. She has been very fearless in what she's doing to say things that no one else will say, and we appreciate her for that. I want to also continue to address what Dr. Horowitz had mentioned about the corruption on this island, and that how non-violent victimless crimes are actually being prosecuted. But in our case, we know that the prosecutors know that the person who is attempting to steal our land or has stolen our title right now is a criminal or is actually a very bad person, which he's told us. We also know that the former prosecutor admitted to us that he knows that our house has been stolen. It's not easy to prosecute a stolen house. They didn't just rob our house, they have stolen our house. So Grant,
I know you have a specific case pending, but I want to kind of reel you back into the ethics bill.
Yes, and I'm here to address it. Well, who is this person that's being protected? That's actually, he's actually a danger to everyone on this island. He's a local lawyer. His name is Paul J. Sola Jr. He runs an ayahuasca church. It's an illegal ayahuasca church, according to the DEA. Why is Mr. Sola allowed to get away with running an illegal ayahuasca church on this island? And also, why does he have over 50 properties and now about to acquire ours? Why isn't he being questioned? Why is he able to take young people in the community, tell them they will see God if they go and they try this ayahuasca brew in a controlled environment on the Hamakua Coast, which we have the address of, a 67-acre compound, that he's committing these crimes not only against us but against everyone in the community that could become a victim to him. Your children can become a victim to him. Just people seeking God, people seeking a path. And this man has been able to get away with this. And they're going to claim statute of limitations, even though this is ongoing. And even though this man is able to just kind of squirm away. I asked the FBI, what do you think is going on? I have a contact at the FBI. They said they couldn't understand why the prosecutors were sitting on this. Well, I can tell you why I think they are. Politics. And politics should not overcome ethics. Politics should have nothing to do with what's happening here in our community. Just because people want to stay politically correct and they don't want to, for instance, disturb the drug trade that may be bringing underground money into this county, to this state. Like Dr. Horowitz says, there's drugs leaving. How are they leaving? And so I'm here to just bring awareness to everyone here that's not aware of this menace, Mr. Paul J. Sola Jr., who's actually, as long as he can continue to get away with that, and right now he's actually trying to take a 100-acre property, so he goes after larger parcels.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mahalo for your testimony. Okay, council members, we think we've gone through everything.
Slate is clear.
Slate is clear. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Paleka, seconded by Mr. Onishi. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.